ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति 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 शान्तिः. Namaskar, my dear friends. This is video number 3 on Kaivalya Upanishad. This video starts with Atma is not identical with the universe. Atma is of a different nature from the whole universe, as the Shruti says. Stanza number 18. त्रिषु धामसु यद् भोग्यं भोक्ता भोगश्च यद् भवेत् तेभ्यो विलक्षणः साक्षी चिन्मात्रो अहं सदाशिवः. Whatever in the three states is the object of enjoyment, the enjoyer and the enjoyment itself, from them distinct am I, the witness, the pure intelligence, the ever good. Three states, Jagrat, Swapna and Susupti. The ever good, Sadasiva or Mahadeva, who is the pure eternal good itself. The disciple's recognition of the true self. When thus taught by the gracious Guru, the disciple recognizes his true self and thus declares his experience. Stanza number 19. Mayyev saklam jatam, mayi sarvam pratishthitam, mayi sarvam layam yati, tad brahmadve masman aham. Meaning, in me all is born, in me all things firmly stand, in me all attains dissolution. So I am Brahma, the secondless. In me all is born, etc. I being none other than Brahma. Immutability of Atma. One should not suppose that because Atma is thus the cause of the world's origin, stay and dissolution. He is of the same form as the world and changes with it. On the other hand, Atma is never subject to change. His nature is inscrutable and very hard to realize. The Shruti says, Ano arnyayan ahem ev tadvat महान अहम विश्व इदम चित्रम पुरातन अहम पुरुषो महीसो हिरण्य अहम शिव रूपम अस्मि. Meaning, I am verily subtler than the subtle, so am I the great. I am the universe diverse, I am the ancient, I am full Purusha, the ruler, I am the golden and the auspicious am I in form. The golden, full of wisdom, that self in the sun who underlies all the things in universe. Atma is omniscient, though Atma has no hands and other organs of action or of sensation. He is omniscient, so the Shruti declares. Apani pado aham chintah shakti, pasya chaksu shirno karna, aham vijanami vivikt rupo nachasti veta manchit sada aham. Vadair anakir hime vivedo Vedant Krit Vedadi Dev Chaham. This is stanza number 21. Meaning, without hands and feet, I am unthinkable activity. Without eyes, I see. Without ears, I hear. Distinct from Buddhi, I understand, and there is none who knows me. I am ever conscious. I am he who is knowable by the many Vedas. I am the maker of the Vedanta as well as the knower of the Vedas. I am the Holy One, the great omniscient Lord, without debility, inaccessible to all speech and thought. I am the maker of the Vedanta. I am the revealer of the truths taught in the Upanishads. I am the teacher of all sciences. I am the God beyond the universe. Atma is formless. As the Shastras declare, Atma is devoid of all form. Stanza number 22. Ne punne pape mam nasti nasho, ne janam deh indriya buddhi asti, ne bhumir apo na cha vihir asti na chanilo me asti na chambram cha. Meaning, to me, there is no virtue or sin, no death or birth, no body, senses or buddhi, no earth or water exist for me, and no fire and no air exist for me, nor ether. The whole universe is made up of Maya and the rudimental elements, bhutas. These and the things made of them are only illusory appearances of the self-conscious bliss of Atma, who is altogether free from duality. The Sakshatkara, the immediate result of an intuitive recognition of the identity of the self with Brahma, is described by the Shrutis as follows. एवं विदित्वा परमात्म रूपम गुह्य आश्रयम निष्कलम द्वितीयम समस्त साक्षिम सदसाद्विहीनिम प्रयाति शुद्धम परमात्म रूपम इति प्रथम खंडः. Thus, knowing the essence of the Paramatma, the Supreme Self lying in the cave, partless and secondless, the witness of all, having neither the existent nor non-existent, one reaches the pure essence of Paramatman, lying in the cave, dwelling in the buddhi of all as witness of all its functions. Second khanda, second part, recitation of the Satarudriya. In this section, the Shruti proceeds to teach how to purify the Antahakarana, which, owing to its impurity, is unable to comprehend the Supreme Self. Ye Satrudriyam dhite su agniputo bhavati सुरापानात् पुतो भवति ब्रह्महत्यात् पुतो भवति कर्त्याकर्तयात् पुतो भवति तस्मात् विमुक्त आश्रितो भवति अति आश्रमी सर्वदा सकीर्दा जपेत्. Meaning, he who recites the Satrudriya becomes purified by sacred fires. He has atoned for wine drinking, he has atoned for Brahmanicide, he has atoned for voluntary and involuntary sins. Thereby he is refused in the Avimukta, the Lord. He who is of the highest order should recite it always or once. अनेन ज्ञानम् अपनोति संसार अरणवनाशनम् तस्मात् देवं वदितं कैवल्यं फलं श्रुते कैवल्यं फलम् अश्रुते इति द्वितीय खंड इत्यर्थ वेदे कैवल्योपनिषद समाप्त. Here ends the Kaivalya Upanishad. Before I conclude this Upanishad, this video, I'll talk about mind. The mind has been a great bugbear to all philosophers in seeking to find out what things are in themselves as distinguished from what they appear to be. The ontologist, like any other inquirer, must ultimately resort to the mind for data on which to base his speculations. But all knowledge acquired through the mind comes invested with the limitations under which it works. Everything that is known is tinged with the color of the mind perceiving it. The metaphysician, therefore, who suspects that things are not what they appear to be, concludes that things in themselves, the noumena underlying the phenomena, are inconceivable and unknowable, though he is instinctively led to believe in them. As opposed to him, there is a metaphysician of another school who holds that what is known or conceivable can alone be said to exist, and that therefore whatever is unknown and unknowable and even unconceivable can never be said or thought to exist. A third position is also possible. It may be that the mind as it is at present constituted is biased and subject to limitations. If, however, it be possible to divest the mind of all its limitations and imperfections to make it quite colorless and unbiased, it will also be possible to know what things are in themselves. The establishment of all the validity of this position is the unique pride of the Brahmavadin. He has from time immemorial proclaimed the possibility of knowing the thing in itself, and he has had distinguished representatives in the historical period such as Sri Gaudapadacharya and his pupils Sri Shankaracharya, not to mention a host of others in the later periods of history. Thus, however, is not to ignore that there have been others besides the Brahmavadins in the historical period who have spoken of the thing in itself under such designations as the absolute. But between them and the Brahmavadin there is a difference. While the conclusions of the former are professedly based on pure speculation, the latter stands alone as one who has spoken of the thing in itself with that certainty which is born and bred of conviction produced by an immediate or intuitive cognition thereof. The whole literature of the Vedanta is devoted to an exposition of what Brahma, the thing in itself, is, or rather what it is not. The truth of its teachings has been testified to by the personal experience of an unbroken line of teachers including Sri Gaudapadacharya and Sri Shankaracharya. Accordingly, the Brahmavadin concerns himself not only with the theory as to the nature of the Absolute, but also with the development of the faculty by which to come face to face with it, while logically establishing the nature of Brahma by an elaborate course of metaphysical argument. The Vedanta describes in some detail the process of purifying the mind, or manas as it is called. As manas is purged of its dross, of its desires for and attachment to earthly and celestial pleasures, it loses its fickleness and tends to become steady. On attaining to a state of perfect steadiness, it ceases to be what it now appears to be and becomes one with Brahma. And this unity of Manas with Brahma is what is called Brahma Sakshatkara, an intuitive or immediate cognition of Brahma. Nothing short of the Sakshatkara can produce an absolute conviction as to what the thing in itself is. With the Brahmavadin, metaphysics is nothing if it is not associated with religion, and in fact it forms the soul of his religion. His metaphysical conclusion form the groundwork of his religious devotion. The path of any particular devotee runs along the line of the conclusion his mind is capable of forming as to the nature of God, soul, and the universe. No course of abstract contemplation of the divine being is recommended to one whose mind cannot rise to that level. Hence, the multiform and apparently divergent paths of devotion recommended in the writings of the Aryan sages. The Brahmavadin's metaphysical philosophy derives its peculiarly religious significance from the fact of its being based on the direct experience of the enlightened sages who describe Brahma, the Absolute, as transcending in its bliss the highest reaches of human conception of happiness and pleasure. The Brahma of the Vedanta is at once the absolute which the metaphysician strains his intellect to apprehend, the summum bonum which the moralist strives to attain by his acts, and the divine bliss which the ardent religious devotee aspires to realize in life by exclusive devotion to God with his being. In fact, every orthodox Aryan system of science and art and philosophy has its basis in religion and is calculated to subserve the interest of spiritual progress. Thus, the Brahmavadin affords a unique instance of the theologian who has, from the very dawn of his religion, not learned to hate the light of truth thrown by the most astounding discoveries of science and the grandest conclusion of philosophy, who on the other hand has based the superstructure of his religion upon the deepest and the most far-reaching conclusions of all science and philosophy, nay, upon nothing short of divine omniscient wisdom. The Brahmavadin's theosophy is primarily founded on revelation embodied in the scriptures known by the name of Upanishads and forming part of the Vedas. They are also known as the Vedanta, the last word of the Veda concerning what is called Vedika Dharma or Vedic religion. It is not very easy to say exactly how many Upanishads there are. Tradition assigns one Upanishad to each Vedic school or Shakha, so that there being 1180 Shakhas enumerated, there must be as many Upanishads in all. As most of these Shakhas are said to have become extinct, the Upanishads attached to them may have disappeared also. Nevertheless, there are now found as many as 130 or more Upanishads. Of these 100 and odd Upanishads, only 10 have been fully commented upon by Sri Shankaracharya, whose commentaries on Upanishads are the earliest extant. It is only these 10 Upanishads and 4 others that have been cited as authorities by Sri Shankaracharya in his commentaries on Brahma Sutras, and among them alone are those few that can be traced to the current Vedic schools. This fact, as well as a striking difference in diction and subject matter between these Upanishads and the rest, has led some critics to regard the former alone as genuine Upanishads and the latter as mere imitations, if not worse, without, however, venturing the bold opinion that this view is altogether unfounded. One may still hold that even those Upanishads which Sri Shankaracharya has not commented upon or otherwise noticed may justly be allowed the title, as they conform to the accepted definition of the term. The great commentator derives the term from three words: upa, near, ni, quiet, and sad, to go to, perish, to waste away, and explain that the word means Brahma Vidya, the spiritual wisdom, which by leading its devotee very near to Brahma brings about the final extinction of misery by eradicating it and burning up its very seed, avidya. And in this widest accept extended by later writers to such works as the Bhagavad Gita, which treat of Brahma and the means of attaining divine bliss. This elasticity in the application of terms does not altogether militate against the Brahmanical doctrine of revelation, for while holding that Vedas, including Upanishads, are eternal as embodying the eternal truths which, though not accessible to the mind of the ordinary man, are yet within the can of the spiritual vision of the divine sages who can read them as it were recorded in the pages of superphysical nature. The orthodox Brahmanism admits the possibility of sages and even the divine being revealing at different ages for the guidance of people so much of truth concerning transcendental matters as may be necessary for their spiritual progress in the language of the people to whom the teaching is addressed, unless therefore the application of the term is restricted to works of a particular age in the historical period. The title cannot be refused to the Upanishads in question. The settlement of the question as to how far they are genuine or authoritative must be made in view of the foregoing considerations. The rest ultimately on the inherent truth of the teaching contained in each individual Upanishad, judged as all such cases are in the last resort by one's own intuition. But Sri Sankarananda, who for many years occupied the apostolic seat of Sringeri Mutt monastery in the 14th century as the head of the most orthodox school of Upanishad, the followers of the Upanishad, has commented and otherwise discoursed upon many of those Upanishads which his great predecessor had left unnoticed, is enough to show that they form a valuable block of sacred scripture, at least insofar as they have been made by religious teachers channels for conveying to their disciples spiritual instruction of no mean order. Shankaracharya's omission to explain or otherwise notice them in his writings may be explained on the following ground. His main object was, as may be seen from his attitude towards the various religious systems of his day, which were too full of mischievous doctrines and corrupt practices, under the cloak of devotion to a personal god or goddess, to purify them all by placing them on a rational basis. With this end in view, he concerned himself with the establishing of the essential principles of universal religion of the Vedika Dharma or wisdom religion as treated of in the 10 classical Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita. These writings, supplemented by experts from 4 more Upanishads and from such other works as the Mahabharata, Vishnu Purana, Manava Dharma Shastra, which are least affected by predilections for any particular religion, afforded him ample material for the laying of a common rational foundation of all religions. As to details in doctrine or practice connected with any particular religion, he was not opposed to anything which did not militate against the fundamental doctrines of the Vedic religion. The classical Upanishads have been translated into English by more than one scholar. So I conclude this video here. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Namaskar, my dear friends. Thank you so much.